Hello everyone and welcome back.
I missed you.
In this video, we'll discuss all the default schemes in Worms WMD. We'll analyze each one and explain their unique experiences on the battlefield. Some schemes are designed for fun, others for competitive matches, and some fall somewhere in between. Without further ado, let's begin. The beginner scheme is the most basic one in a Worms game, perfect for new players to get acquainted with all the weapons, or for bitter losers who just want to fix their stats against newcomers. The default turn time is 60 seconds, which will waste a minute of your life deciding what to do, getting to a certain spot, and panicking in the last 5 seconds while selecting and using a weapon. Unlike more advanced schemes, worms are randomly placed all over the map, which won't do you any favors since your opponent's worms will always have better positions. I guess that's just how the game works.
Alright, that's just a little weird.
Joking aside, this game isn't just for beginners. No matter your skill level, it offers a great way to have chaotic, unpredictable and fun matches. If you win, that is. Players will have access to almost all basic weapons and a decent number of resources for crafting additional ones. Some advanced weapons are also available, but for some of them, you'll need to complete a certain number of turns. For instance, to use the Holy Hand Grenade, you'll need to finish 5 turns to unlock it. Other basic, advanced and super weapons are also available, but you'll need to find them in dropped crates or craft them using materials collected from those crates. Dropped crates may contain health, tools, weapons, or crafting resources, and will fall after almost every turn, especially after yours if it's something important.
What the hell are you talking about?
At the start of each match, all players will have access to 2 random mounted turrets and 3 random vehicles, but don't panic. For all of us who are greedy, additional vehicles will drop during the match between turns until they max out at 6. And if all of this isn't enough for you, there are some additional benefits to this scheme, including more time to retreat after using a weapon, extra hot seat time before your turn begins, no restriction on girder radius, more jetpack fuel, an infinite number of throw strings, and last but not least, malfunctioning mines. Just like your strategy. If the match isn't finished after 20 minutes of embarrassing turns, the water will start rising after the end of each turn until the whole map is submerged, resulting in a draw, which is probably the best you can hope for. If you start getting threats, it means you are improving, so you can advance to the intermediate scheme. This scheme is more advanced than the beginner one and it is designed for players with a bit more experience, though newcomers can try it as well. Like any other scheme, the intermediate scheme can be used in custom matches against multiple players. But it's mostly for people who want to raise their skill level above the beginner level and get closer to more experienced players. Here, the default turn time is set to 45 seconds, which is a bit shorter compared to the beginner scheme. You have enough time to think, decide what you want to do, realize in the last 5 seconds that you can do something better, and, if lucky, mess up without hurting your worms.
Oh my god, that was so funny!
As in the beginner scheme, worms are placed randomly all over the map, which means most of them won't live to see their turn being played, but rather be killed by the prod or Uzi. This scheme can be used in custom matches against multiple players to have chaotic and unpredictable fun, but without the most overpowered weapons. Instead, you will have access to more advanced weapons, and if you haven't gained some basic skills, good luck trying to win a match. Once again, you will have access to almost all basic weapons, with a solid number of resources for crafting additional ones. Advanced weapons are available, but for some of them you will have to finish a certain number of turns before you can use them. For example, to use the unwanted present, you will have to finish 6 turns to unlock it. Other basic, advanced and super weapons are also available, but you will have to find them in dropped crates or craft them using the necessary materials collected from dropped crates. Dropped crates are rarer compared to the beginner scheme, so good luck collecting them. As usual, dropped crates may contain health, tools, weapons, or crafting materials. At the beginning of the match, players will have access to 2 random mounted turrets and 3 random vehicles. Additional vehicles will be dropped during the match, but this time it's less likely to happen. You just like your chance of winning without them.
Well, that's not true. You're saying things you do not know what you're talking about.
Their maximum number again is 6. For all of you who skip the training with the beginner scheme, here are 2 things you can count on. No restriction on girder radius and more jetpack fuel. The same goes for your opponent, so that last sentence basically falls off a cliff. This time, the water will start rising after each turn until the whole map is submerged if the match isn't finished after 30 minutes of embarrassment. Luckily, nobody's recording. If you don't finish the match by then, it will end in a draw. This is the hardest scheme to master, and it's called Pro for a reason. It's used in ranked matches, but you can use it in random non-ranked matches as well. Don't try it if you're not ready. And how to know if you're ready? Well, you have tried. This scheme is made for experienced players, and you should use it if you want to take your gameplay to the next level. The default turn time is set to 30 seconds, which means you have to think and decide on your move before it even begins. Otherwise, you'll just shoot and throw weapons from a distance, maybe getting a lucky shot.
I have been very blessed. I'm very lucky.
Speaking of luck, you'll need it to win before you get used to the scheme and raise your skill level. Unlike in the beginner and intermediate schemes, here you'll place your worms one by one on the map. This can be a bit boring, but is ultimately a good thing, as some of your worms might actually live to see their turn. Placing a worm is considered a turn, and you will have 15 seconds to do it. The same goes for your opponent. You can use this scheme in custom matches against multiple players to have a competitive and fun match, but without overpowered weapons and crazy unexpected twists. There is no luck here, just skill.
But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
You'll have access to most basic weapons, with minimum number of resources for crafting additional ones. There are no advanced weapons by default, and you will have only one banana seed to craft. Dropped crates are rare and may contain health, tools, or weapons. However, even if you see one being dropped, don't get your hopes up, because the selection of items in dropped crates is limited. While tool crates may contain goodies such as worm select or jetpack, dodgy phone battery and unwanted present are the best you can hope for in weapon crates. At the beginning of the match, you and your opponent will have access to 2 random mounted turrets and 2 random vehicles. Additional vehicles won't be dropped during the match, so make the most of what you get.
I'm speechless, so I don't know what to say.
The pro scheme is as tough as the name suggests, and you won't have any beneficial perks to count on. There is less jetpack fuel, limited rope swings, less time to retreat, less hot seat time, restrictions on girder radius, there are anti-vehicle mines, and there are no malfunctioning mines. Just malfunctioning strategies and tactics. The water will start submerging the map bit by bit at the end of each turn if the match isn't finished after 15 minutes of play. This rarely happens, but if it does, it means one of the players was stalling and they should be the one losing the match. The ESL scheme is the first specialized scheme on the list, created for official tournaments on ESLgaming.com. These tournaments were popular when the game launched in 2016, and the scheme went through several changes after players provided feedback to Team 70. If I had to name it, I would call it the Elite scheme. Essentially, it is a pro scheme on steroids, with fewer weapons, crafting materials, and chances of winning.
Stop crying, it makes me cry to see you.
The default turn time is set to 30 seconds, and teleport in is turned on. I wouldn't recommend this scheme if you just want to have fun. For that, I recommend dating. This is strictly designed for competitive matches and for people who don't want dropped crates and advanced weapons from the pro scheme. You'll have access to the minimum number of basic weapons and the minimum number of crafting materials, just like the average mass shooters around the world. Unlike in the pro scheme, here you don't have a banana bomb seed, so you can only craft basic weapons. The rest of the scheme settings are just like the pro counterpart, and it's equally depressing. You'll have access to 2 random mounted turrets and 2 random vehicles, and additional ones won't be dropped during the match. There are no beneficial perks to count on. It goes the same as for the pro scheme, but with fewer rope swings. And the water will start submerging the map bit by bit at the end of every turn if the match isn't finished after 15 minutes of play. Just like you in high school, the full wormage scheme is one of the least popular schemes in a worms game. It features every weapon in the game, with an infinite amount of ammunition for each one. This means you can use super weapons from the beginning of the match. For example, you can use Armageddon in every turn. The only good reason I could think of for using this scheme is to have quick access to a certain weapon for practicing or testing it in a specific situation. However, if there are still madmen who plan on using it in a match, here are other things you should know about the full wormage scheme. The default turn time is set to 60 seconds, which is a lot. Worm's health is set to 200 health points, and they are randomly placed all over the map. Dropped crates will fall after almost every turn, and they may contain crafting materials or health, which provides 100 health points. Furthermore, there are 2 random mounted turrets and 6 random vehicles at the beginning of the match, with additional vehicles dropping later in the match. Besides standard objects like mines and old drums, you will also have electromagnets, neutral sentry guns, and anti-vehicle mines. You will have infinite jetpack fuel, an infinite number of rope swings, and no restriction on girder radius. If the match isn't finished after 30 minutes of playing, the water will start slowly rising at the end of each turn until the whole map is submerged. But with all the weapons available, I don't see that happening anytime soon. The classic scheme is as close as you can get to the retro gameplay. It is designed for nostalgic purpose, or if you want to experience how people did it back in the day.
Hey Sean, want to hear a story?
Yeah, sure, Dad.
So anyway, back in my day I was...
The default turn time is set to 45 seconds, which means the turn will last as long as you do.
How dare you!
This gives you plenty of time to reach a certain spot, select your weapon, and use it for a few seconds. At the beginning of the match, worms will be placed randomly all over the map, which is never a good thing. Most of the time you will be wondering why you even bother to name the 3rd or 4th worm. If you choose to place this scheme, you should know that you will get a chaotic, unpredictable and fun match. Players will have access to many original weapons, but without any crafting materials because there is no crafting in this scheme. On the other hand, dropped crates fall often and are generous, just like Monica Lewinsky. They may contain health, tools or weapons. It's worth mentioning that weapons such as Concrete Donkey, Armageddon and Carpet Bomb are present, but you will have to collect them first. This scheme is OG at its core, and that means there are no mounted turrets or vehicles. Pro tip: turn off building chance when choosing a map to get the full experience. There are a few benefits to this scheme, including more jetpack fuel, and no restriction on girder radius. The water will start rising after the end of each turn until the whole map is submerged, if the match isn't finished after 20 minutes of bad turns and empty threats. In that case, a draw is the best you can hope for. The destruction scheme is essentially a playable full vormage scheme. All weapons are available, but not by default. It's an excellent choice for players looking to have fun or test their friendships. Seriously, if a match with this scheme doesn't end it, nothing will. The default turn time is set to 45 seconds, which is more than enough for casual players. You'll have plenty of time to plan your attack and execute it, mostly from a distance. Worms will be placed randomly all over the map, each with 150 health points, making easy kills that much more painful. If this happens, try to avoid eye contact with your friend.
Why you got to make eye contact?
As mentioned earlier, this scheme will test your friendships like no other. Play with as many players as possible to enrich the experience. Expect fun, chaotic and unpredictable matches, but don't get mad if they throw donkey on you.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
All players will start the match with a lot of offensive weapons and a solid number of resources for crafting additional ones. Some weapons require a certain number of turns to unlock. Weapons like the Holy Hand Grenade and Banana Bomb are present, and with a tier of a warm ingredient you can craft even more powerful weapons. Crates will fall frequently, containing either health or crafting resources. Health crates provide 50 health points, which is balanced considering the available weapons. On the other hand, crates with crafting resources are generous, and you will need them to find a second tier of a warm ingredient to craft Armageddon or Concrete Donkey, or just try with your own tiers. At the start of each match, all players will have access to 6 mounted turrets and 6 random vehicles. Additional vehicles won't be dropped during the match, so make the most of what you get. Just like with the tiers of your friends.
You seriously crying right now? No! What, you're crying?
Like in previous schemes, this one also includes some useful perks, and those are more jetpack fuel, no restriction on girder radius, and anti-tank mines. It might not seem like much, but it's still more than you'll have in your friend group after the match. If the match isn't finished after 20 minutes of play, the map will be submerged bit by bit at the end of each turn. This seems unlikely given the available weapons, but we thought the same about your friendships before the match. And look at them now. As the name suggests, the fort scheme is made for fort matches to provide the optimal experience. However, if you're an odd duckling, you can use it on any type of map. And yes, we will judge. The default turn time is set to 45 seconds, so you can comfortably move around, choose a weapon, aim, and miss. Worms are placed randomly on their forts at the beginning of the match, and if you have chosen your fort wisely, this should not be an issue. If this is not the case, don't play the lottery, don't go out, and stay at home till tomorrow. Just in case. The scheme will provide an excellent fort experience, with enough weapons and resources to play. You will have fun and unpredictable matches, with many opportunities to test different weapons and playstyles during a single match. Players will start with a solid number of weapons in their arsenal and a good amount of crafting materials. Super weapons cannot be crafted, but you can pick them up in drop crates. Drop crates are not rare and may contain health, tools, weapons or crafting materials. It is important to note that the available weapons will provide excellent defensive strategies, and players who prefer invading will have a hard time doing it properly. This time, you will have to play as intended, and I know you don't like it.
What are you trying to tell me?
Speaking of bad news, there is more. There are no mounted turrets and vehicles this time around. The only turret you'll get is the one you bring if you choose a machine gun as your fort extra. Some of the beneficial perks you can count on are more jetpack fuel, a lack of mines and oil drums, and no restriction on grid radius. Only the restrictions on your ideas for effective strategies and tactics. If the match isn't finished after 20 minutes of embarrassing turns, the water will start rising at the end of each turn until the whole map is submerged, resulting in a draw, which is probably the best you can hope for.
That's all for today's